thinking, this is just another video game pasta. However, that isn't true. My experience has been unlike any other. I was innocently playing Final Fantasy VII on my PS2 for what was probably the 10th time. I never seemed to get sick of playing that game. I was playing the airship on disc 2, when I suddenly remembered that a hidden scene could be viewed in Shinra Mansion if returned to on the second disc. Apparently, the scene depicted the true events behind the Nibelheim incident, specifically, Zack rescuing Cloud from the mansion's basement in a flashback. I eagerly landed the highway near the Nibel Mountains and walked into town. I truly regret doing that now. Instead of the normal music that plays when I enter the town, the creepy music you hear when you see Genova's headless body in the Shinra building was playing. Not only that, it was much louder than normal, and accompanied by an occasional heartbeat sound. The town itself also seemed off, as the windmill wasn't spinning, and several of the clones were gathered around the outside of Shinra Mansion. When spoken to, they only screamed, more loudly and realistically than I thought possible in the old game. No text box would come up when they were spoken to either. Despite my growing fear, my inner nerd told me to press on so I could learn the truth. The interior of the mansion looked far worse than it should have. Deep scratches from untold monsters covered the walls, and the bodies of many NPCs and a few Sephiroth clones littered the floor. That haunting Genova music was still playing, and blood was pulled around most of the bodies. When spoken to, the bodies would disappear, but the blood would remain. Nothing like this had ever happened to me in a game before, so I was, and still am, genuinely afraid. Yet, I felt I had to press on, to satisfy my regrettable curiosity. As I came to the stairs, the gigantic skeleton of the beast's lost number was hanging across the stained glass windows. As I tried to walk past it to another room, small flames burst forth in its eye sockets, and I heard it say, "This mansion is the beginning of your nightmare, one that shall never cease," in a terrible low growling voice. It then laughed a terrible guttural yell, then its bones collapsed, leaving nothing but white dust. I nearly shut off the game then and there, as there is no voice acting in that game, and the graphics were becoming increasingly realistic. Foolishly, I swallowed my fear and descended the spiral staircase into the basement of the mansion. In the dark earthen passageway leading to the lab, I knew instinctively that dark things were afoot here. Unfortunately, I was correct. As I walked past the room where I found Vincent earlier, I saw that the door was made of bones now. They almost looked like the bones of guardhounds, as the signature tentacle was present among the bones. Luckily, Vincent was not in my party at the time. I shuddered to think of what would have occurred if he had been. The Genova music was still blasting away, and the heartbeat was becoming increasingly common. As I reached the lab, an FMV began to play, but not the one I came to see. It showed Hojo in FMV form performing a terrible experiment of some sort. There was a body on the operating table, but not Vincent's like it had really been. Instead, a gargantuan fusion of beast and what had once been a man lay on the table. It was at least 10 feet tall, probably more, and had pupilless red eyes staring into oblivion. Its mouth was open in a snarl, revealing long, yellowed fangs. It also appeared to have 4 large, thick, black furred arms, all lying in different directions. Words appeared on the bottom of the screen in blood red, showing that Hojo was talking to himself. His next quotes are paraphrased, as I do not remember them exactly. He said that wretched last number was a miserable failure, but that of course is due to the use of inferior specimens. If only that ancient girl hadn't escaped along with Red 13. No matter, when this is finished, the world will know true terror and fall under my absolute dominion. He then laughed in that horrible nasally voice of his and stick some type of pitch-dark materia in the beast's chest. But I can tell it's not the black materia. The materia begins to glow blood red and the operating wounds close on the beast. The FMV ends and Hojo turns around to see the party. I nearly jumped out of my skin when he started talking out loud. "My pitiable test subjects are finally here," said Hojo in his whiny voice. "Your bodies will yield valuable data when Dark Strider is finished with you," he continues out loud. "Finally," he said, "and now, Cloud, you shall learn the true power of the dark." At this instant, the basement became very dark and Hojo disappeared from view. I saw 2 adjacent red orbs come into view before vanishing into black mist. At this moment, I was absolutely terrified, and I made Cloud run for the stairs as fast as he could go, but he seemed to be in slow motion. As I was about to reach the long spiral staircase, the Dark Strider materialized right in front of me. The Dark Strider said in a demonic voice, "You cannot escape he who walks beyond the light." He then rushed toward Cloud and a battle ensued. Unfortunately, I continued to watch. A twisted, evil version of the boss battle theme started playing. Instead of the normal faces on the party, they all had looks of terrible fear on their faces, which I had never seen before. The Dark Strider says, "You cannot perish here, Cloud. Join my legion of the undead and suffer eternally." He then breathed a dark miasma of gases upon Cloud. It did 9,999 damage to him, but he didn't die. His face took on a skeletal look, and parts of his body crumbled away to reveal 2 detailed organs, including a still pulsating heart. Cloud immediately attacked Barrett and Tifa, who simply die, albeit with blood-curdling screams and moans. As Cloud slices them with his sword, the 2 die normally, but their bodies disappear in a dark mist and do not reappear. Cloud's large sword has copious amounts of blood on it, as well as looking sharper than normal. The battle ends, but the victory music doesn't play, and Cloud doesn't do his victory pose. When the screen returns to normal, the Dark Strider begins to approach Zombie Cloud. I watched, transfixed with horror, afraid at what he would do. That's when something completely unexpected happened. A somewhat realistic version of Genova Synthesis flew down the stairs and tackled the Dark Strider. I was so shocked I dropped the controller, and Zombie Cloud moved on his own and left the mansion without issue, while Genova and the Dark Strider were duking it out. However, just before Zombie Cloud left Nibelheim, Genova Synthesis came out of the mansion and devoured Cloud's still beating heart. Cloud immediately collapsed and the screen went black. I was dearly wishing for the game to end at this point, but I received something far worse. Instead of the game over screen, my eyes are met with a seemingly post-apocalyptic world in FMV format. Midgar lies in ruins with terrible beasts twisted by Mako roaming the charred husk of the former city. All 5 weapons roam the world, each taking its own territory and fighting others to defend it, far different than their original intention. Diamond Weapon rules the eastern continent, Ruby Weapon the western continent, and Ultima Weapon the northern continent. Emerald Weapon and Sapphire Weapon rule the seas. All bear terrible battle scars and their bodies are partially blood-stained. Oddly, the heads of some important characters appear to be impaled to their spikes, including Sid, Rufus, and Sang, all eyeless and scarred. I wanted to look away and leave, but some unseen force seemed to glue me to the chair. Sephiroth is shown crystallized Mako at the northern crater, with Genova nearby. Finally, what looks to be the spirit of the Dark Strider appears near the ruins of Nibelheim, but only at night. Lastly, a view of the planet is shown with the words, "The world fell into ruin, and now you shall perish with it." Then, there's nothing but static accompanied by screams. I immediately unplugged the PS2 and ran to my room to escape the nightmarish ordeal. I haven't been able to turn on the game since then, nor have I ever figured out what caused the strange happenings. All I know is that 2 red orbs will spontaneously appear in the darkness every once in a while, before disappearing a few seconds later. In fact, I think they're watching right now.